Welcome to the Life After Sugar podcast, the podcast that's not just about sugar, but about your relationship with it and also with food and especially with yourself. So if you want to discover your life after sugar and hear inspiring stories from all kinds of people who also cut out sugar in their way, at their pace, for their own reasons, this is the podcast for you. Because when you take away the sugar, you can finally discover the real sweetness in your life. I'm your host, Netta Gorman. And in this week's episode, we're talking about emotional eating. And we often think that emotional eating is about the food. But more often than not, it's actually about what the food is helping us cope with. So in this episode, my guest Lisa shares how losing her brother at the age of 6 shaped her relationship with food, especially sugar, and how she eventually found a different way to deal with her difficult emotions. We'll get to our chat in just a minute. But first, I just wanted to tell you that if you're looking for some free resources, then I have plenty for you. First, download my 5 tips to get rid of cravings. And those 5 tips may not be what you think they are. So go to sugarcravingsfree.com and download your 5 tips today. And while you're at sugarcravingsfree.com, why not take the cravings quiz? I created this cravings quiz specifically to help you start thinking more deeply about what triggers your cravings. And when you do this quiz, you'll get your personalized score as well as my practical tips to help you take your first step to get rid of cravings. Those free resources are at sugarcravingsfree.com. And to go even deeper, buy my new book, Break Free from Sugar Cravings, in either paperback, ebook, or audiobook format, available now on Amazon in most countries. Type in the search bar, Break Free from Sugar Cravings, or just my name, Netta Gorman. And on social media, come check out the Life After Sugar Facebook page and subscribe to the Life After Sugar YouTube channel, as well as my Instagram account at My Life After Sugar, which is where you'll get all kinds of inspiration so that you can see that it's perfectly possible to live a happy and active life, even if you don't eat sugar. All right, let's get to my chat with Lisa. And today I'm talking with Lisa, who's in the UK. And Lisa, can you tell us a little bit about where you grew up and what you used to eat as a child?
Absolutely. So I grew up in the suburb of London. I was the youngest of 3 children. My mum was always, she hates cooking even now, but she always cooked for us. It was very important that everything, was freshly made. And I remember she used to make this thing called vegetable savoury, and we all detested it. And all she would say, well, you need to eat it because it's good for you.
Mm.
My dad, he's a bit of a feeder. So it's like, he'd take us out Sunday mornings to get away, out of my mum's way. So she would always make us a lovely roast lunch. And he, as we were going, don't eat anything when you were out. And he would always be allowing us to buy sweets and goodies. And it was, don't tell your mum, because, she'd be upset.
Oh, did it spoil your appetite?
Yeah, absolutely. So, but yeah, so I remember specific foods as opposed, specific meals like the roast dinner was very important in our household. And in fact, we used to eat the meal and then we'd all be in the kitchen picking afterwards. So, but yes, it was very much, my mum was the thinking about, feeding us nutritiously, and my dad was the one who was giving us all the goodies.
Okay, all right, yes, all right. And can you tell me a little bit more about when you started being aware that you were eating your emotions?
Absolutely. So When I was six, unfortunately, my elder brother passed away. He had a rare form of child cancer, and I think he must have been ill for most of my life. And there was a sister in between as well. And I just remember the devastation at home, obviously, and not really understanding what was going on. You know, in those days, you didn't have grief counselors or anybody to talk to. You were just supposed to sort of get on with life.
Mm.
And I just remember that I became that good girl. I didn't, you know, if I was told to do anything, I just did it. I didn't question anything. Um, but you know, when you're six, obviously you feel emotions. You're learning how to navigate emotions in your world, and I didn't show any. I
Mm.
kept them all in, and yeah, so I really did sort of eat. I would eat secretly as well. You know, I had my meals and everything, but then I would go into the kitchen and sneak food. And it was very much, I was eating to numb, and
Yeah.
I was also eating to distract.
Yeah. Yes.
And
And you were very young when this happened.
yeah, but my eating pattern continued for many years.
Uh-huh. And at no point did you get any sort of counseling or support?
It didn't exist. I'm in my 60s. There was nothing like that in those days.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, and my elder sister, you know, we reacted in different ways to this tragedy. My elder sister, I remember, she like almost pretended he didn't exist, and they'd been very close in age and very close, you know. So you all this is all about coping and survival, and your brain, its number one, you know, function really is to keep us safe, and that's how my brain kept me safe.
Yeah. And it's totally understandable. And so, what kinds of foods gave you the most comfort?
Um, it wasn't broccoli. It was those noshy foods like ice cream, bread. Those were actually the main things because I don't remember there being a lot of chocolate around
Mm.
or biscuits or anything like that. Cakes were sort of made if we ever had cake, and I couldn't sneak that. But I used ice cream. I could easily get to. I think actually, do you know, I do remember penguin biscuits, so they were there. So
Mhm.
it's that kind of sweet, noshy food. And bread would be toast, and because I put butter and honey on it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
again, anything sort of sweet.
And that was all available in your house because as a child, obviously you can't go out and buy it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes. No, I was going to say, but I did get pocket money, and I was allowed every week. We used to walk down to the sweet shop, and then you know most of my sweets would be eaten within 2 days.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess you grew up equating those types of foods with comfort, and th was that a problem or not?
Yeah, no, definitely. So when I was until I started physically maturing, I was a very skinny child, and so nobody really knew what I was doing. But as I started to develop and I started to put on weight, then it did become an issue. My mum still didn't know really what I was eating, unless she caught me, which was only very rare. But you know. I really became a much larger person, and that was worrying to her because she didn't know what was happening.
Mm. Yes, I
Um,
wasn't aware about the sneaking of the foods.
Absolutely. And then as that, you know, I went to senior school where, you know, the bus stop was in front of a sweet shop, so I could always go in there. And you know, sixth form, you've got freedom to buy. And I spent a lot of money buying extra food, and I would eat it really, really quickly, throw the wrappers away so nobody knew what I was doing. Um, and it's sort of also that I was very shy and not confident in myself, and it would make me feel better in those shy, you know, not confident moments. Like, you know, if something happened with between friends, which they do, especially girls, I think,
Yeah, oh yeah.
growing up, and you know, immediately, well, I would go and comfort myself with food.
Yeah. Yeah, as do most of us, I
Yeah.
have to say. So, would you say, looking back now, that it was the food that was a problem, or the behavior, or both?
Um, Looking back and knowing what I know now, it was the food was just a coping strategy. That's what I used to cope. The emotions and 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 not having, I wasn't emotionally resilient. I didn't know how to manage these emotions. They were the difficulty. Because if you think about it, when you're a child, how do you learn how to respond to an emotion? Because you're taught by your parents, by people around you. And my parents were going through their own pain, so they didn't necessarily pick up on what was going on for me. They were very loving parents. They're still with me. They're very loving parents. It's, there's no judgment here. It's just what the situation was like.
Yeah, yeah. And so, as you were growing up, how did you learn other types of coping skills than turning to food and sugar?
No, I honestly don't think I did really.
Mm.
That was it. My elder sister and I, typical siblings arguing. So I wouldn't have gone to talk to her. My parents, 2 years after my brother died, had two more, had twins.
Uh-huh.
So there were more babies in the house and more people to worry about.
Hmm.
And so I was still that good child. They even now will say, oh yeah, we could rely on Lisa. She was going to be the good one. And they didn't know. I didn't allow them to see all my insecurities inside.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So you lived with that type of pain and
Mm.
very little knowledge about what to do with it. And did that ever change?
Not and yes and no, not until much later. So part of it changed when I met my husband when I was at uni. So I was 20, and I was at I know it's not about size, but just as a descriptive, I was at my largest size there. But he just got to know me,
Mm.
and that really helped, because I think a lot of this was also to do with self-esteem and self-confidence. That I I never stood up for myself. I never told anybody how I felt about anything. That thing, oh, Lisa, what do you want to do? Oh, I don't mind. We can do whatever you want to do.
Mm.
And in fact, I did that with my husband, for years. And then he turned around to me and says, will you just make a decision? I'm fed up of you never making a decision. And so I did. I tried, and it was really hard,
Mm.
because when you're not confident, you feel like your opinion isn't really worth very much. And everybody else's opinion is far more worthy than yours.
Yeah.
But anyway, I tried really, really hard. And then in the end, I'd say, I don't know, I want to go for a burger. And he'd say, are you sure you want to go for a burger? Don't you want to go for fish and chips? And I go, no, no,
Mhm.
I want to go for a burger. And he'd go, are you sure? Because the fish and chips are really delicious. And he just wasn't used to me making my own decisions. I think now maybe, yeah, maybe he feels that this was letting a cat out of the bag that should have stayed there, because I'm too opinionated, but I don't know. Um,
Well, you were probably not used to having opinions either.
I didn't, honestly and truthfully, Netta, I didn't even know what my opinions were,
Yeah.
because I never voiced anything. And I was so insecure in my opinion that I thought, well, it's wrong. My
Yeah.
opinion's wrong anyway. So there's no point in me voicing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like a sponge for what everybody else thought.
Yeah.
And
I call that a people pleaser.
oh yeah, definitely. I was
Mhm.
definitely a people pleaser, and also a carer for everybody else. So everybody else's feelings were really important to me,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
I
And
never
there's
looked at
nothing
my
wrong with that.
no, no. But I don't feel now, looking back, that I should be so busy caring for everybody else that I forget about me.
Yeah.
I need to remember me as well.
Yeah, that's the balancing act, isn't it? Really.
Mm.
And people think that the message of this podcast is all about what to eat, what not to eat, what you should be eating, don't eat all this sugar. And, actually, it's much deeper than that. It's everything you've been talking about self-esteem, self-worth, being
Mm.
able to express yourself, being able to cope with your emotions in other ways than with sugar or sugary foods. And so, how does that happen? How do we learn those coping skills if nobody's teaching them to us? I want to take a quick break to say that if this is your first time here, then welcome and thank you for listening to this podcast. And whether you're new or a regular and you haven't yet rated or reviewed this podcast, could I ask you to scroll down and tap on the stars to rate this podcast and also to write a short review to let me know how this podcast is helping you in your life after sugar. I love reading your reviews. And when you rate and review this podcast, not only does it encourage me to continue making new episodes, but it also helps to share this podcast and have more people see it so that we can help more people feel better and lose weight with less sugar. So again, thank you for rating and reviewing this podcast and for spreading the word about sugar.
It's not easy, but I think the first thing we have to do is actually be compassionate with ourselves. When I look at my history, of course, my parents, they love me dearly. They didn't intentionally not show me, how to deal with these emotions. And even if I hadn't been able to absorb what they were telling me, let's say they were helping me with that, and I hadn't been able to absorb with, I, you pick up a lot of this when you're a child. Think about, how do you know when someone's angry if they don't say to you, well, I'm really cross that you did that, and this is the reason why. They're angry because they slam a door or they shout.
Mm.
And so growing up, you're going to absorb that and think that's how we're supposed to express our anger. And it's only as an adult when I look back and I realize, no, that isn't the way we express. And what we have to do, it almost talk to our child self
Mm.
and explain, actually, it's okay that you're angry. I think lots of people think that it's wrong to feel. It's absolutely not wrong to feel. Our emotions are there. They're giving us information. That's our brain is there to keep us safe, and these emotions are there to tell us what is going on for us. So, for example, anger might be telling you that somebody's crossed a boundary, and that's good information. Yeah, but what we
Yeah.
have to do is find the appropriate way to deal with it. Also, lots of people feel emotions and they don't know what they're feeling. How can you know, cope with an emotion if you don't know what it actually is? So I think the first step is actually to identify what it is you're feeling.
Yeah, yeah, and that um, requires a certain vocabulary that we don't always have.
Absolutely. So one of the things that you can help you is something, I don't know if you mention it, called a feelings wheel, and you can
Yeah,
just Google it and print it out. And
yes.
sometimes I've got one just sort of printed out, and sometimes I think, I know I'm feeling something, I just don't know what it is. And I'll look at that and I'll go, oh, I think I'm feeling a bit of that. But even if you don't know what it is, that's okay. You know you're feeling something. Make up a word. I've got a word when I don't know what I'm feeling, but I feel something, and it's not a real word, it's gefrunzeled. I say, I feeling gefrunzeled. And that's just my way of telling me that I know I'm out of sorts, but I don't know why. And that's fine.
Yeah, yes, because this isn't actually an exercise in vocabulary. It's a way of pinpointing what it is that I'm feeling and naming it. But that sounds simple enough in theory, but it's a lifetime's work.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, but you know, every little step that we make is progress. And
Mm.
in fact, you don't want to make ginormous strides because then you get things wrong or you miss things, or, it's not real. So the way to do is to just make small steps. Like just even, right. this week, I'm just going to really try and identify what I'm feeling. And that's it. You don't have to do any more than that. Because actually, if you can calmly identify what you're feeling, your nervous system will become calmer and it won't be reacting as strongly. Like if you're going, it's a catastrophe, I don't know what's going on for me and whatever, your nervous system is thinking, what's going on? And it's all sort of, bouncing all over the place. But if you can actually just calmly, oh, I think I'm feeling a bit fed up or a bit frustrated or whatever it is, then and you're doing it in a open and as calm as you can way, that's going to help your nervous system feel calmer.
Absolutely, absolutely. And for us women, especially mothers, to normalize having any type of emotion, so-called negative emotions,
Yeah.
especially, which I just call emotions.
Yeah.
It's like it's so difficult for us because we are so still our generation, we're in the same generation.
Mm.
We still grew up sort of feeling that, we should be pliable and amenable and agreeable.
Absolutely. You think about all the sayings, about, big girls don't cry and, go and say hello to somebody that you really didn't want to go and say hello to. And even if that person was horrible, no, you've got to, show your manners, go and do that. Go. Absolutely. And we learn this, we absorb all of this. Because I think also we need to remember that behind all these emotions are thoughts. We have thoughts first that lead to emotions, and then the emotion can lead to a behavior like either food, hitting out, storming upstairs, whatever it is.
Yeah.
The thoughts aren't always conscious. And a lot of them do go back to when we were children.
Mm. Yeah. Yes, and it doesn't have to be a super traumatic event like you
No,
experienced.
not at all.
And sometimes it's almost as if we're like, well, I shouldn't be feeling all these feelings because what's behind them isn't some big trauma.
Mm. I think how I like to describe a trauma is like, yes, we can look, obviously, what happened to me was a traumatic experience. But trauma is when an experience happens to you, whatever it is, and you don't have all the tools to deal with it. So it could be that one time somebody called you a name in the playground.
Mm.
And that can be enough. That's a trauma for you because you didn't know how to cope with it.
Mm.
And so trauma, no, does not have to be a great big experience. It can be something very small, but it's something that affects you because you don't know what to do with it.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And for some of us, it takes until our 40s, 50s, 60s for us to even recognize that we don't have that skill of coping in any other way than turning to food or sugar. And once we realize, it's a skill that I can learn,
Mm,
that's the biggest, I think, the biggest breakthrough.
absolutely. So what I recommend is actually something very, very simple, like a very quick pause. So no, like I've talked about compassion. I've talked about identifying the thought that comes before the emotion, because that's actually giving you information and clues. And sometimes you can stop at the thought and go, oh, instead of turning to crisps, I'm going to actually phone this person because I realize that what I'm missing here is connection, or I just want to offload, or whatever it is. But the next thing I encourage people to do is actually just take a pause. It can be, I'm going to count to 10 and then whatever. Or, like people sometimes put hair elastics around their wrist and they
Mm.
just do
Think,
that. Or I'm going to go into another room for 3 minutes, or I'm going to look out my window for a few minutes. Anything like that that just gives you the pause. Because if you can pause, then you can make a choice. And I think that when we're emotionally eating, the choice goes out the window. It's like you're driven to do it.
yeah,
And sometimes you're eating before you've even realized what you're doing.
yes.
So somehow we want to try and get in a pause. Things that can help you pause is, for example, let's say your go-to is crisps. Put them in a different cupboard. Put them in an opaque box on a higher shelf. Anything that you can do, not to not eat them, because I'm not There's no problem eating crisps. But if we're going to eat crisps, can't say it. If we're going to eat crisps, we want to eat them for the right reason. We want to eat them because number one, we're making a choice, and number two, we want to enjoy them. You know, if we're going to eat them, let's enjoy them. And we can't enjoy them if we're shoving them in our mouth really quickly because we're so angry or frustrated or upset. But if we can give ourselves a pause and say, actually, do I really want those crisps? Is that going to really help me? Yes, it is. Okay, I'm going to have them. That gives you time to calm that nervous system down. You know, I always say, put them on a plate, sit at the table, nibble them, eat them slowly, get that real enjoyment. And when you're making the choice, sometimes, you know, at the beginning, it might always be still the crisps.
Yeah.
As time goes on, it might be crisps and it might be, actually, I'm going to go and have a bath. And if I want the crisps after my bath, then great.
Yeah. 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 That's great advice because it feels when we're in that kind of situation, call it a craving or, this kind of it has to happen now. We need relief right now. It
Mm,
feels like even 3 seconds pause is a lifetime.
absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, yeah, it just really just helps you make that decision rather than it being a knee-jerk reaction that you're doing, as I say, without even really being conscious.
Yeah. Yeah. It's becoming more conscious, more aware and more mindful and in the moment. It can feel like it's impossible.
Yeah. You know, everybody emotionally eats at some point. It is what happens, and it's not a big deal at all. It's
Mm.
just when it's the only coping strategy that you have, and then we want to give ourselves some options. So it's almost like, make a list of options. Well, actually, yeah, I can eat, but I could also go and have a bath. I could also phone a friend. I could also, it sounds like a game show, doesn't it? But I could do all of these other things instead. And which one am I going to choose? Which one is going to help me the most?
Yes.
And if the eating is just going to end up with you feeling guilt and shame and frustration, then maybe it's not the right one this time. If it's actually going to give you pleasure, because you are going to manage to eat it slowly, nibble it, enjoy those flavors, etc., then great, do that.
Yeah. 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 That sounds like really excellent advice and very close to what I teach in my program, which is, you've got this variety of things that you could do. Some of them feel like they will give you relief and actually make you feel worse not even in the long run, as in the short term.
Even later.
Yeah, and others actually do help you feel better. It's just that you've never actually had those options before.
Exactly. Exactly. Can I just bring in one feeling that I hear in my world all the time?
Yeah.
People are always telling me how they feel fat.
Huh.
And I would just like to explain that there is no such feeling as feeling fat.
Mm.
And just remember that is a cover up for another feeling. Because what happens is that we focus all our attention on our body as, I don't know, yeah, all our attention is focused on it for how we feel. And really, it's got nothing to do with our body as such. It's just a cover up for something else. Because think about the number of people you see in the street who are in a larger body and they are so confident and so happy as they should be. It's not to do with your size of body. It's to
Mm.
do with how you're actually feeling inside. So if you hear yourself saying, "Oh, I'm feeling really fat," thinking, "Oh no, I've been told that doesn't exist. So what am I really feeling?" And just get down into the root. And you'll find that once you deal with that, then your body, you can accept your body much more easily. And often how you feel about your body is tied up with self-esteem.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And people have told me, well, look, if I do whatever other coping skill instead of eating, it's not the same. I'm just trying to convince myself that it'll make me feel just as good as going for the crisps or the ice cream or whatever, but it's not the same. And my response is, yeah, that's the whole point. for it not to be the same. Otherwise, you're just spinning around in circles.
Yeah.
I call this, running after lower highs. In fact, not even running after them, just being satisfied with lower highs so that you're
Yeah.
not always running after a high. Is that similar to how you see things?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that also that people think, well, no, the food is what is going to really help me. But as you just mentioned before, that's only momentary. You eat the food and it's gone in a moment. And then what do? Go and get some more? Or whereas if actually you phone a friend, for example, and you have a conversation, what they say to you and how they support you, that stays with you for ages. And you don't get the guilt and the shame and the frustration and the fed upness that why have I eaten all that stuff again? You don't
Mm.
get that by talking to a friend.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. And changing the habit of a lifetime is also a skill that you can develop. And usually most of us sort of get there a bit later in life.
Absolutely. And that gets back to the compassion thing that I said at the beginning, because don't rush this. This is a lifetime work. If you think, how many years have you been struggling with emotional eating? So it's not going to go in a few moments, but every time that you can tick a box and say, okay, I did that quite well today, you are nearer becoming somebody who doesn't emotionally eat. And on the flip of that, every time that you do emotionally eat, but you can turn around and go, okay, why did I do that? What was happening then? Oh, it was because of this. Maybe next time I'll try this thing instead.
Yeah,
Again, every time you're learning from when it didn't go the way you intended, you are moving forward.
yeah, yeah, yes. It's that self-compassion, crikey. It's almost like we feel we're not worthy of self-compassion, and then it's a vicious cycle.
It is, isn't it? It is, and that's what makes it hard.
Mm,
That but it is possible.
mm.
You and I have both done it,
Yeah,
and it
yeah.
is possible
It's possible even for us.
even for us. And I never thought it would be possible for me, honestly. I
Mm,
never did,
yeah,
but it is.
yeah. Well, that's such an inspiring message, knowing that it is possible is a huge mindset shift.
Mm,
So
yeah.
thank you, Lisa, for,
You're very welcome.
yeah, it's really for being so inspiring for everyone listening and for me.
Oh, thank you. Well, it's been lovely to talk to you.
Gosh, Lisa's story is a powerful reminder that emotional eating isn't a character flaw or a lack of willpower. It's often a coping strategy that started a long time ago. For Lisa, it was in her childhood. And that doesn't mean that you have to have lived through a massive trauma. But once you begin to understand what's underneath your cravings, you can stop fighting yourself and start healing. And with that healing comes more self compassion. And this is exactly what we focus on in the Freedom from Cravings Formula program. Because I created this program specifically for women over 50 to help you go deeper into your relationship with food, especially sugar, and also into your relationship with yourself. And so that you can get guidance and support to help you stop emotional eating, break free from sugar cravings, slim down, and feel more in control around food. In the program, you'll get step-by-step guidance and customized support through the 5-step formula that I've developed to help you ditch the shame and embarrassment that you feel every time your emotions make you slip or fall off the wagon, so that you can live your life with more energy and fit into your favorite clothes effortlessly, feel confident in your food choices, and so that you never have to feel like you're on some kind of restrictive diet. By the time you're 50 and over, you've spent decades looking after everybody else. And now it's your turn to take care of yourself. So let's chat about your specific needs and why you want to break free from cravings. Go to sugarcravingsfree.com to learn more about the Freedom from Cravings Formula program and to book a free video call with me to see if the program is a good fit for you. Go to sugarcravingsfree.com. That's it for this week. Keep in touch and see you soon for another episode.